Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition for the Pinniped community meeting. Today's date is August 19th, 2021. If you are watching this from home, we encourage you to come and join us live. We do meet every first and third Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. If you would like to get updates and invites to these meetings, you can join our Google group. All these details are found within our agenda for this particular meeting. If you have anything you want to discuss in these meetings, we ask that you put them within the agenda in the discussion topics section. This can be anything from you needing help with a particular piece of Pinniped, how to get started, or if you have any feedback for the team regarding this, we're all ears and we'd love to hear what you have to say. If you are unable to join us, we also can be found on Slack and Twitter, and those details can be found right here. If you're not part of the Kubernetes Slack workspace, you'll just need to request an invitation first to gain access, and which is a really simple process. You'll just submit your email, and it's pretty quick to get that invitation sent back to you. When you attend these meetings, we ask that you read and abide by our code of conduct, which is listed right here. And also we ask that you add your name in any organization that you are representing. This helps us to keep track of those that are attending our meetings and see who's using Pinniped or interested in Pinniped and keep those lines of communication open. And for announcements in this meeting, we have a big announcement I'm really excited about. We had a talk accepted at KubeCon, Cloud Native Con North America. The speakers will be Mo and Margot, two of the maintainers of Pinniped. It's the title is Everything Wrong with Kubernetes Authentication and How We Worked Around It. It will be Friday, October 15th, 2:30 to 3:05 p.m. Pacific time. And you can either register to attend virtually or in person. So we would love for you to attend and hear what we have to say there. Additionally, for another talk that we have on the horizon, we have Pinniped CNCF webinar, and all the details can be found here. That'll be next week on August 24th. All right, and next up for status updates. On the project roadmap for July, it looks like.
Yeah, we can, I can give the update here. Cool. So I guess we can take those off of our roadmap now because they are shipped, they are released. We did release remote OIDC login support in 0.10. This lets you log in from things like SSH jump hosts. We also released a way to use the LDAP login functionality with no prompting. So that lets you use that functionality in things like CI tasks. Working right now, we have an open merge request for the non-interactive password-based OIDC logins. So this is if you have an IDP, an OIDC IDP that supports password-based grants, resource owner password grant for OIDC, which is not that standard, but actually is widely supported across things like Okta and Dex. You can now use that through the Pinniped Supervisor, and it has a similar client flow as the LDAP login, where you type in your password. We're also working, we have unmerged changes, open PRs for Active Directory support. That adds like a great deep Active Directory integration. That's sort of a special version of our LDAP, existing LDAP support. Some of the next things up on the roadmap, multiple IDP support, which is about being able to have one supervisor, one federation domain, or multiple federation domains, but multiple different IDPs behind that. So letting you say things like, I've got maybe like a local IDP and then also my main IDP. I want to build a login through either of them. Ryan has a design document that we discussed, I think, in the last call. If you have any ideas or comments about that. We're also going to be working on adding more cluster type support to the concierge. So I think specifically that will probably mean OpenShift support, which we don't support today. May also mean adding a backend that uses the new Kubernetes 122 CSR API improvements, which that's great because that's actually portable and standard and built into Kubernetes. And then some of the next items that are get a little fuzzier, the roadmap, this identity transforms feature, which again, Ryan has a prototype up and working. There's a draft PR for that. This is about basically making Pinniped programmable and pluggable internally. So all of the places where we're taking identity provider claims and then we're kind of bringing them into Kubernetes, you'll have a place where you can run custom policy code to transform the names or do custom validation or all kinds of cool stuff. I think there's a little, I think I'm going to stop there. There was a kind of a discussion I was hoping we could kick off at some point about the identity transforms work, which is what's the MVP of that feature? And is there some really small piece of that we could ship sooner? Because in my head, it's kind of exploded into like, oh, we should do the Starlark thing everywhere. This is super cool. We should have it in every one of our APIs. You should be able to plug things in anywhere. But that maybe not be the right place to start. So I don't know if anybody has ideas there. Other than that, I think the rest of our roadmap is all unchanged. If you have any suggestions, if anybody watching this later, you have suggestions, feel free to drop them in GitHub.
Great, thanks, Matt. Is that something that you want to discuss later on in this meeting, or do you think that it's something that warrants even a longer period of time for discussion?
I mean, I guess I'll throw kind of a straw person argument out there that we could start with just supporting Starlark transformation in the OIDC identity provider. That would be like the first place I would put it, I guess, and it would let you do the things that I think Ryan has in his proof of concept already, which is just take some claims and then output some claims. Even that though, I guess the concern I have about starting something smaller without designing the rest of it is I would like it to be coherent. As we get this feature wired into all of our APIs, it should be coherent. It should kind of work the same way everywhere. And we had these sort of like ideas about how we might even take some of the existing features that we've built and recontextualize them into this new feature, basically. So things like picking the username claim, picking the groups claim, those API fields might actually kind of go away, or they might become a more simplistic layer that is just like syntactic sugar for the Starlark functionality. But I'm talking too much. I don't know. I don't know if this is. We didn't come prepared to talk about this. Maybe it's not a good topic for today. But I'm excited to start this work as soon as we can. It seems like we have a lot of other things to finish first. But if anybody has thoughts about how we might, I would love to like find a way to basically merge Ryan's proof of concept in this release if we could. even if there's only a really limited place where we actually can start to support it.
The Starlark transformations are part of the multiple IDP straw dog proposal. So maybe we could go over that together sometime soon. Maybe not now because we didn't prepare for it, but maybe later this week or next week.
Good call out. I forgot about that.
How about in the next meeting, the first Thursday of September? Does that work for everybody? Anything else regarding status updates? Nope. Okay. On to discussion topics. I put this in here just wanting to start a discussion with the community. Anyone outside of the maintainers, just wanting to extend this out to everybody who is using Pinniped. We want to know and we want to hear from you. Are you using Pinniped? How are you using it? How can we improve? Any feedback that you may have? And if you would like to be put on the adopters page as well. So the adopters page is a good opportunity for those that are using Pinniped to showcase their company logo, help promote your organization, and specify how you're using Pinniped. And it's just a quick thing. All you have to do is input a comment with the details that we have laid out right here. You know, your organization or company, link to your website, your country, contact information. So how can we reach you? What is your scenario for using Pinniped? Are you running your application in testing or production? And then attach an SVG version of your logo to that comment so that we can add that to the adopters page. And if you have any questions regarding this, you can feel free to reach us via email or on Slack or Twitter. Okay, and before we head out, is there anything that anybody else wishes to discuss? We have about 40 minutes left.
I would actually love feedback on my proposed demo flow for the webinar. If anybody would like to see what I'm planning to do there, I can just talk through it. So I was trying to break this into stages of demo that kind of go up in complexity and start to tell the story about why you need the different pieces of Pinniped. So I was going to start with a kind cluster, install the concierge, talk about what an admin kubectl means, like what do we mean by admin kubectl, and show how the credential issuer status shows you that like Pinniped is running. That's like layer one. Layer two then is wiring your concierge and configuring a JOT authenticator against an OIDC provider. So I was going to use GitLab as an example. Show how you go to GitLab and you register a client, show how you create the JOT authenticator, show how you get a kubectl, and then show how the login flow works, and show how the session caching works. So that's kind of like using the concierge with GitLab. It's kind of like layer two. Layer three then is doing the same thing, but against a second cluster. So I was going to probably pick a GKE cluster, install the concierge, can go to GitLab and configure another client, set up another JOT authenticator, and have two clusters running the concierge, but separate, and show the basically like show the downsides of that. So show that you have to go register a second client, show that you have to log in your browser twice, and then move on. So that's like the third stage. And then move on to what if you bring in the supervisor? So install the supervisor, set up ingress, which I'm going to probably gloss over a little bit, but I'll set up like a real ingress. Go back to GitLab and register another client for the supervisor, and then reconfigure those kind and GKE clusters to now point at the supervisor and show basically how the login flow changes with the supervisor, show that you only need to log in once and that we only needed one client and so on. then take that same flow and also show that it works from a jump post. This reminder, this demo is roughly an hour long, so we have a lot of time. Show the jump post case and how that flow works, and then go through the whole setup again and set up an LDAP provider and show how the LDAP login works, and how you can do the non-interactive LDAP login and do this from like a, anyway, that's kind of the demo that I've got planned. I don't know if anybody has thoughts about what I'm missing, or is it too much, not enough. Does that sound about right?
That sounds awesome to me. Sounds like you're hitting the main features and the main benefits. It'd be super cool if we had, when is this? This is like a month from now?
Tuesday.
Oh, okay, never mind. I was
Yeah.
gonna say it'd be cool if we had multiple IDPs so you could demo that too, but we're not gonna have that on Tuesday.
Yeah, like when I switch from like the OIDC one to the LDAP one, I'll have to make sure I delete the OIDC identity provider. But yeah, it's Tuesday. I'm planning to basically do this all live. I think. I assume the webinar will be recorded, and so we can post that afterwards and share it. I did also consider like pre-recording each section of this demo, and if we wanted to have that as like documentation content to post separately, and then also as a backup in case it's not going well, I could just play the video. I don't know, Nancy, do you have thoughts about that? Okay.
Yeah, I'm always for plan B in case things go awry with a live demo. And I also like the idea of having those as pieces of content that we could use on maybe potential blog posts. You could turn the demo into a blog post.
Maybe I'll just wear the same shirt for the live presentation and the recorded demo, and you won't notice that I hit.
Yeah, there you go.
It sounds like that's already chock full of great stuff, but maybe if you have leftover time, you could throw in some Active Directory too. That feature is effectively finished.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how much I wanted to demo unreleased stuff. I mean, mostly just because it makes the demo harder to set up. Like I could actually like deploy, get a custom image, and I don't know. I could do that. It might be merged by Tuesday anyway. Hopefully. By the way, I fixed CI. CI is working again fully as far as I know.
I was gonna ask, as you're going through this demo stuff, where do you I was thinking about this like earlier this week when I was reviewing Ryan's PR for the password grant stuff. And I was thinking to myself, I really don't like that this Pinniped login OIDC command has like 80 flags hanging off of it. And just every time we change a thing, we just add more flags. And I was like, okay, what would it take to have a command that only had 2 flags? And the 2 flags were, what is the URL for your supervisor? And the second flag, it should almost never reset, which is what is the CA bundle to verify that connection. Right. So basically it's got one parameter, which is I would like to log into this supervisor. And I realized that command is effectively impossible to make today, because once you log, like you could theoretically make a command that lets you log into a supervisor, but then you couldn't do anything because you would be logged into a supervisor, but you would have no knowledge of what clusters to do anything with.
There's the server info stuff from client Go. We're not using that right now, but we could.
No,
we could
no, I'm saying, let's say I don't have a kube config yet, right? Like I am actually directly executing Pinniped. Like,
I see. You actually just want to have a, yeah. So I've talked, I brought this up actually in like that call we were on yesterday, right after you left.
Oh,
about having an API in Pinniped or adjacent to Pinniped that was like a list of clusters on the supervisor and lets you say like, oh, show me a list of clusters I can log into, give me a kube config for one of them. It would know like which audience each cluster had. And
Yeah, we kind of paper over this in the commercial products because they each have their own flavor of how to fetch this TMC, TKG, TKGS, whatever. But to me, the fact that 3 distinct different implementations exist and are effectively required for those products to be functional, to me would say that this would be functionality that should exist in our code base and not 3 different code bases in subtly different ways. But this, I know it's not on our roadmap, but I feel like it should be on our roadmap. Just because we wouldn't ship our commercial products without it. So I don't see why we would ship the open source thing without something similar.
yeah, so if we did have that API, and it would have to be, so I'm imagining there would be a Kubernetes API, the CRDs, right?
I was thinking that it probably had to hang off the supervisor, some supervisor specific API. Like,
yeah, it might be both. It might be like one kind of object that's like a Pinniped cluster object that you might create it through a CRD, but then it would also be exposed somehow through
yeah, sorry,
supervisor API.
My response was like, if I type in like a command that's called Pinniped supervisor login, I don't have any idea where the supervisor is running, like anything about the Kubernetes runtime that the supervisor is running against, right? And I shouldn't, because I shouldn't care. So yeah, just kind of like, I'm fine trying to write a design for this. I feel like we kind of cheated on this because we had sort of foundational stuff from other bits and pieces. But like, I feel like also like your demo would probably be simpler if you started off with, I would just like to log into the supervisor. Cool. Now it shows me that I have these 4 clusters, TKG, GKE, AKS, whatever. Like, you know, like this is part of the value.
It would also, I mean, we could also build the other UI sort of experiences around that. Like we could have we'd have a landing page. So imagine that you host a supervisor at like login.mycompany.com. And when I visit that in my browser, maybe I get authenticated, maybe I don't even get authenticated. Maybe it just shows me an install page that says, hey, to use Kubernetes at this company, download the Pinniped CLI from here, and then run this login command. And you'll get a list of clusters you can log into, and you can generate like, sort of a super kube config that has all your clusters, or you can pick subset of clusters by tag or by which clusters are, maybe go with which federation domain, and we can sort of have like that would be an easy user onboarding story for if I'm an admin, I set up Pinniped, all I have to do to tell someone how to log in is send them a link to this where the supervisor is running, and it's like self-documenting.
Yeah, and I think to a certain degree we saw that experience from like TKGS folks, right? Like they effectively built that into their product as a tightly coupled integration into their stuff. But nothing says that we couldn't have something sort of similar, even if it wasn't like a web page. It could just be an API that the Pinniped CLI like says, I see you have 7 clusters. Type in 1 through 7 to pick the one you want to use. That'd be totally fine. But yeah, just a thought. Yeah, just something on my mind.
Cool. Did we take notes about somebody? I didn't see the notes. Somebody, sounds like Mo, you should write a design doc or file an issue.
Yeah, no, I think I should write a design doc. I've thought about it long enough by now.
All right. Anything else to be discussed before we leave? No. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. And again, if you're watching this from home, we encourage you to come and join us live. We meet every first and third Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And again, if you're using Pinniped, we want to hear from you. Please add your comment into that discussion item, and feel free to reach out to us on Slack or Twitter with anything that you may need from us. We are eager to help and hear from you. Thank you, and have a good rest of your week.